Hey there, YouTube people. So let's cut to the chase. Saros. This game came out. I played it. I beat the game. I was very excited pre the game releasing. I'm a big fan of Housemarque and a lot of things that they do. If you guys are unfamiliar with Housemarque, they're the team that brought us games like Returnal, Resogun, Alienation, etc. I've been a big fan of a lot of their gameplay. I feel like this is a team that really understands how to make games addicting, how to make games very simple and fun. They kind of leveled up with a game like Returnal. For you guys who don't know, Returnal was their first big like triple A endeavor. It was their first huge game that they really put them on the map in a big way. PlayStation acquired them pretty much during that process, and this is their next big, sequel. When this game was first announced, I was very hyped for this. I was very excited for this. Again, I was a big fan of Housemarque for a long time. I think they make really fun games. So I was, very interested in diving deep into Saros. The reviews came out, and a lot of people had a lot of really nice things to say about it. So I was very excited to play this game. Now, 30 hours later, finally beat the game. And in this video, I just want to talk about my thoughts about this game, the things that I think they do really well, and there's a lot that I think that they do very bad. So do me a favor, like, subscribe, etc., and let's just get all the way into this game, right? So I'm gonna start off first things first with Saros as a premise. What are we talking about from the gameplay, etc. So Saros is kind of like a roguelike, but it's very soft on the roguelike aspect. There's a lot of like levers that you can kind of pull to make this game more harder, more, easier for you. There's a lot of things that you can do as far as, redrawing different skills, so you're not really, you can kind of cater it very well to yourself, which is very different from like a roguelike. Especially when I look at games like Hades, Dead Cells, etc., that are kind of like you make what you can with the run and what you're given. Saros is very loose in those rules, especially because like in most roguelikes, the game is designed to be beaten in essentially one run. You start at one point and then you kind of keep going until you get stronger, until you get enough weapons, etc. And then you figure out how to play the game better, and then by the end of it, you beat the game in one swoop. Saros is very different, where it's segmented. There's different biomes, different like levels, etc. So you can kind of jump in at any point. You don't really need to start from the beginning every single time. So it's kind of a bunch of different roguelike levels segmented off. So that alone, I think, makes it very accessible to a lot of people, especially when most roguelikes, I don't think, are 30 hours long. Like, after a while, once you get to the gist of it, once you understand the different enemy varieties, how to play the game, you can kind of speed run it within an hour or two. Saros, I don't think can be. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people can run through this game really quickly, but there's different ways that the game is laid out and mapped out that I don't think it's necessarily designed to be ran in one run through. Now, post game, yes, for sure you can go back and do it, but throughout the game, you definitely can't, especially because there's something that Housemarque has been really diving deep into lately, and that's like their narrative push. Returnal had this very strange narrative. I'm gonna be honest, played the game, no idea what happens in that game. Was it interesting? Maybe. I don't really know. I checked out, partially throughout the game as far as the narrative's concerned. And Saros has this thing where the narrative really cuts into the gameplay in a very PlayStation first party type of way. Now, PlayStation are like the kings of narrative. We all love Last of Us, God of War, etc. These narratives are super cool, super cinematic, super bombastic, and I think Housemarque needs to take better notes with how to deliver a more conclusive narrative. Now, Housemarque, I think, have been lauded as like a great development studio for gameplay. Their guns feel super smooth. Their enemy varieties feel super smooth. Movement is super cool, super fun, addictive, very action packed. Their narrative in Saros cuts into the gameplay so much that it becomes very distracting. I had this consistent battle throughout playing this game where there was I knew the game was fun. Just at its core, this game is very fun. So I wanted to keep playing it, but I kept running up against like friction, and it wasn't the gameplay or the dying or the enemies. Like none of that was really the cause of the friction for me, and I couldn't pinpoint what the issue was. But then once I started to realize that the game is super super fun when it doesn't let its story get in its way. There's a lot of parts where the narrative will pull you into a cutscene. It'll pull you away from the main objective of what you're doing. It'll literally stop your run and tell you go back, figure out what's going on with the story, and then come back to the game. And I wouldn't mind it as much if, again, the narrative was well written. w- like I can't even tell you what happens in this game because halfway through the game, once I realized the narrative was the problem, I just started skipping everything. And I typically never skip cutscenes. I don't really skip dialogue, but these characters are so bland and boring. I don't know any of their names. I think there's a person named Kayla, and I think the main character's name is Arjun or Arden, one of those. Anyways, the main character of this game is so poorly realized in my opinion because like I don't care about him. There's no point where I feel like if he's going through a struggle, I care. So why do I care about understanding his backstory and his connection to this world or these other characters? All other characters that, by the way, I do not care about. You get introduced to certain characters that are dead, but you didn't know who they were ever. So like, how would you feel some type of remorse or sorrow for them, etc. So I think Housemarque would have been way better off if they just completely ignored the narrative and just focused on making this game fun, which they did that. But then again, you add all this story stuff, this dialogue, these cutscenes that I can give, an F about. By the time I beat the final boss, I didn't feel, I felt accomplished in a gameplay standpoint, but I didn't feel accomplished in the story because again, I didn't play this game to see credits to see the ending cutscene. I did it so that I know that I beat the game and I had fun beating the game, which is where this game really shines. When I'm running through the biomes in this game, I'm having so much fun. When I'm killing enemies, I'm having a blast playing this game. Whenever I'm doing runs from like start to as far as I can go before the game cuts me off, those are the funnest moments I have playing this game. And the way you can kind of play with the modifiers, I have a lot of fun with. The way you can kind of create this run that is best suited for what you want to do at the moment. For example, there's a skill tree. In order to level up throughout the skill tree, there's two different types of currency. One is Lucenite. The other is Halcyon. I don't know how to pronounce it, but there's two different ones. Um, at a certain point, you kind of run through all of one currency nodes, and you kind of just need the other currency nodes. So you can adjust the modifiers where, hey, maybe I take a different boost, like a damage, a damage increase, or another second chance revival, etc., etc. There's different ways that you can kind of boost yourself, but if you're gonna take a boost, you also have to take, like a nerf in some type of way. So one of the nerfs that they give you as an option is, oh, enemies give you less Lucenite, which at a certain point, once you've already, maxed out that specific node in your skill tree, you don't really need them anymore for a while. So you can take that nerf no problem while gaining the buff. So just a bunch of stuff like that that I really enjoyed. I loved a lot of the weapons. I will say that kind of towards the later half of the game, I realized I really only liked the rifles for the most part. The shotguns, I think, were fun throughout the runs, but pretty useless against every boss. Same thing with the pistols. I didn't really have a lot of fun with the pistols towards like the back half of the game. They have some really interesting guns like a crossbow that I thought was very useful, and a chakram, I think it was called, which is kind of like a taser, which was very awkward at first to get used to, but once I got used to it, that thing was really cool and it dealt a lot of damage to a lot of different enemies. And once I learned how to use those different weapons, I had a lot more fun with those. But ultimately, by the end of it, I was like, if I see a rifle that's stronger, I'm taking the rifle, hands down. There was even a lot of times where if another weapon was like 5 levels stronger than the rifle I had, I'm gonna keep the rifle, especially if it's a tactical, an onslaught, or a smart rifle. Those ones were like top tier, definitely like unequivocally the best weapons in the game. You also have like alternate fires, and then you have another like I don't know what the last weapon is, but essentially you get three different types of weapons that you can use, um, like at any given time. The third ones, which would be like the Prominence, which is like a huge Kamehameha blast, or the Disruptor, which or no, the Spiritor, which kind of like puts a bunch of these spirits in people, and then when you kill them, they kind of explode into like this rain of damaging sparkles that hurt people, right? So a lot of those I had a lot of fun playing with, and especially like towards like a lot of the bosses, going into certain bosses, I wanted to make sure I had a certain um whatever those super strong moves were called. And then finding ways to kind of like max out your blue gauge so you can use those weapons was really really fun. And I think that's where a lot of the fun in this game became very addictive, is finding out ways to max out a certain thing, putting like kind of all my points or all my eggs in one basket and then just kind of unloading that on a boss was super fun. I love dodging different projectiles. Once you get the parry in this game I love. I was i was seeing a lot of like people in like podcasts and other like channels saying that the parry wasn't very useful and it didn't give you a whole lot of benefits. So why would you even parry when you could just dodge? The parry in this game, in my opinion, is super useful. It gives you options like stunning the enemy. It deals damage to the enemy. You can clear out other projectiles with a parry. So like if you see the gameplay, obviously there's a bunch of colors and things going around. If you parry the red pellets, it kind of clears out a path for you, so you don't have to worry about that as much. So whenever I saw red pellets, I definitely aimed for a parry, especially when I got really good at it. So all this to say, this game as a game is so good. Like really, really fun, really, really addicting. And I think Housemarque needs to go back to the drawing board on whether or not they really need their narratives in their games. Because I feel like that is such a detriment to my fun in this game. That's what kind of held me back a lot and why it took me longer to beat this game than I think it should have. Because there was times where while I'm playing the game, I'm having fun, but when I step away to go do anything else, and when I come back and say, "Oh, I should go back and play Saros," there's always some kind of hindrance in my body, something that was just like, I don't think I want to. And again, as I kind of progressed through the game, I realized that the thing that I don't want to do is spend time with these characters, and they have this really cool world, these really cool gameplay, this really cool game design. The way everything is set up is super fun and super cool. And once I'm like dialed into that, I'm having a blast. But then you get a cutscene, and then I'm like, okay, like I don't care. I thought Ghost of Tsushima's Jin Sakai was the worst PlayStation like main protagonist for a while because he's so bland. This guy is so much more bland. And the fact that Housemark thinks they really nailed it with this narrative is concerning. I think they need to go back again, revisit how they tell their stories, maybe hire someone who knows how to make a good story. Um, but I definitely think they either need to go back to the drawing board and figure out with their next game what their focus should be, because they have one thing great and one thing lacking. And I've seen roguelikes with really good narratives. I really had a lot of fun playing Hades 2 last year. I loved a lot of the characters and I was very interested in a lot of the dialogues, and I went out of my way to talk to people in that game. In Saros, I only go out of my way to talk to characters to like get a collectible, whether it's a text log or audio log or something, or it's like the story made me talk to them. But there was never a point where I felt inclined to go do so, which sucks because I really wish that this game had no faults, because it's pretty like the gameplay is honestly, in my opinion, very perfect. This game is so close to being a perfect game for me if the story didn't get in its own way. And that sucks. With that being said, it's an easy recommendation for anyone. If you're hesitant to buy this game, I highly recommend checking it out. And if it's like maybe $70, isn't enough. Maybe you don't feel like this game is worth the 70 essentially. Maybe wait for it to go onto PlayStation Plus or something, but definitely whenever you get a chance to play this game, I highly recommend everyone try this game out because I just had a blast playing this game. It's definitely gonna be a game that I go back and think about for a while, as far as just the gameplay is concerned. And now that like I'm in post game, I'm very excited to see like what a run looks like now and how much fun it is now, just kind of cheesing it out, and just kind of seeing how much stronger I can get. Because at a certain point, once you start to get in like the level 70s with your weapons, you're just running through everything, and that's such an adrenaline high to just mow down everything. And sure, does it make the game easy? Yes. But sometimes that power high is very, very fun in games. Anyways, you guys, I'm gonna leave it like that. Those are my final thoughts on Sorrows. Definitely check it out because even though it has its problems, it has so much more, highlights within this game. All right, see you guys.